I am Chief Master Sergeant Derrick Hildebrant. I had the honor of serving alongside with Ex-Sergeant Roberts at the 138th Fighter Wing. I also had the humble privilege to serve the Roberts family as the fall, following his final mission, the attack at Camp Tashi that took his life on March 11th of 2020. And it's hard to believe that over 3 years have passed since that day. But still today, I want to remind you, Peyton, that your dad is a hero, and he always will be. I know you miss him, but you carry his smile with you wherever you go. And Kristie, you are a special person. You demonstrate God's power. You make known who your weaknesses. It's amazing. You're a good friend. Thank you for who you are. Mike and Sallee, and Randy and Carol, Courtney and Carla, extended family and friends. I know you've lost someone very special that could never be replaced, but today is one of those ceremonies that we get to continue a way that we might remember and honor Marshal Roberts. His name will never be forgotten. A hero's name is never forgotten so long as you continue to mention their name. And that's what we're going to do here today. Would you all please stand with me as we open the program with a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we are grateful for who you are. We're grateful for your mercy and for your grace. You tell us in your word that greater love has no one than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. You demonstrated that first and foremost through your Son, Jesus Christ, who laid down his life for his friends. But just a shadow and a picture of that displayed in Marshal Roberts as he had the bravery and the heroism and the character to do a similar act. And we thank you for all of the family here today. We thank you for your mercy and grace. Your grace is sufficient for us. Your power is made perfect in our weakness. We ask that this day you would continue to bless this Gold Star Roberts family, that you would bless this day, this ceremony, and this post office. May it ever be a reminder, a daily and a constant reminder of the love, the character, and the sacrifice of Marshal Roberts. We love you, we thank you. We offer our time up to you today. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Please remain standing as the 138th Fighter Wing Honor Guard presents colors. The national anthem will be sung today by one of Technical Sergeant Roberts' fellow airmen, Master Sergeant Ariel White, who was awarded the Purple Heart for her injuries sustained in the same rocket attack that took the life of Sergeant Roberts.
Stand by. Colors. Engage button. For arms. Right. Face. Colors. Halt. Present arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order! Arms! Colors! Colors, turn! March!
Can you please be seated? Get a round of applause for that national anthem. Congressman Kevin Hern, 1st District of Oklahoma, introduced legislation in February of 2021 to rename the post office building located at 1233 North Cedar Street in Owasso, Oklahoma, the Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts Post Office Building. This legislation eventually passed in the House and in the Senate and was signed into law on June 16, 2022. The passage of this legislation meant so much to Congressman Hern, not only because he wanted to honor one of Oklahoma's greatest heroes, but also because he literally grew up around airmen. Born on an Air Force base himself, Congressman Hern gained an early appreciation for the sacrifices that military families go through. Hern had the humblest of beginnings in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas, but through hard work and dedication, he overcame the odds to experience the American dream. After earning a vocational degree, Congressman Hern went on to college and later earned his MBA. After starting out his business career in the aerospace industry, he began saving to purchase his first McDonald's restaurant by starting and operating as small business ventures such as writing computer, real estate, and even hog farming. In 1997, Congressman Hern literally sold the farm to buy his first McDonald's restaurant. He would eventually own 24 McDonald's restaurants, employing thousands of people in northeastern Oklahoma. In addition to McDonald's, Congressman Hern has been a very successful entrepreneur in the areas of banking, manufacturing, real estate development, multiple technology companies, and sports publishing. Congressman Hern was sworn into Congress on November 13th, 2018. He and his wife Tammy live here in Tulsa and have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. They're members at the Church of Battlefield. Would you please join me in giving a warm welcome to Congressman Kevin Hern.
I want to thank everyone for being here today, and I want to thank the Marshal Roberts family for allowing me to be a part of this program and to recognize Marshal. You know, today's dedication is a long time coming, as we've just heard the Chief Master Sergeant read. And despite all the emotions that this event must stir inside each of you, the memories that you must now revisit all over again, you came here today to be a part of this. We thank you so much on behalf of the family. I want you to know how much I respect and admire your courage for putting all aside to honor your beloved Marshal. I can assure you that is for the reason alone that we are all here today. I personally will never forget the moment that I met this family. I had just moved my dad, a 22-year Air Force veteran, from San Antonio, Texas, up to Claremore because he wanted to be in a military nursing home his last days of his life. That was on March 4th, 2020. As I got off the plane on the 13th, coming back from Washington, D.C., I'm not sure who it was. I just remember an Air Force sergeant meeting me at the gate, and I thought, how does he even know I'm getting off of this plane? And I thought for a split moment that it was my dad had passed away, and that somebody told him I was on that plane. And he said, introduced himself, and again, I don't know who the name was. And he said, Staff Sergeant Marshal Roberts lost his life, and the remains are coming home, and his family is in the USO, and would you like to meet the family? I assure you that 200-yard walk from gate A9 at the American Airlines terminal up to the USO was a moment that I was trying to think of anything and everything I could say, because I don't care who you are, when you run for office and you want to become a public servant, they don't teach you what to say in those times. I remember very vividly walking in and seeing Kristie and Mom, mother-in-law, Dad, sitting there. And obviously it was a very emotional time. And I've seen a lot in my life, but I really didn't have the words to say other than to say, thank you and I'm sorry. And so for that, I want you to know that I am forever grateful to have gotten to know this family over the last 3 years and for being a part of this special event today. I later thought that a lot of people would say when they run for office that you would have these words, but they just don't exist. I can assure you that in that moment there was nothing I could say or do that would honor Marshal's heroic situation adequately. Nothing that I could do to properly thank his family enough on behalf of a grateful nation. No sentiment that I could express could sufficiently console them or ease their grief. To us, Marshal Roberts was a hero. To them, he was dad, he was son, he was mother, and he was friend. Thoughts and words can never bring back a father. They can't revive a husband, son, a loved one, a friend, or a teammate. I believe with all my heart that only God can truly fill the void of a broken being. And only He can truly heal the heart grieving from unmeasurable loss. But despite that, I was moved to do something, to take whatever action I could do, even in the humblest of ways, to honor Marshal's memory and to ensure that his name lived on in the minds of our community. You see, I believe that while Tech Sergeant Robert's life may be over today, his impact on our lives can endure. And for me, as a dad, as a grandfather, it's important for me to always know that I will help Peyton remember her daddy. So many here today have served and are now serving in uniform to protect the very freedoms that we experience each and every day. Those that have come before us, like my dad, who passed away just 3 days later after that day, on March 16th, made sacrifices in order to protect those ideals that are so enduring to our nation. Sacrifice is contagious. Those who witness it are forever marked by its touch. Those who understand it are forever driven by its power. Marshal's devotion to this country and to his fellow airmen place him at the ranks of our most exceptional patriots. But even more than that, his actions on that fateful day in Iraq, as well during the entire breadth of his life's work, demonstrate a noble idea in our modern society, that anything of value has a price. In an era where convenience is king, we literally have the world at our fingertips. No thing we want is beyond reach. No place we want to go is too far. Marshal, like so many of the men and women in uniform in the audience today, took the less traveled path. In a world centered on self, Marshal chose a life in service to others. It is no wonder that we now know the heroic actions Marshal took in his final moments. They were no accident. Marshal acted with courage, with dignity, and with bravery because, well, that's just who he was. And that nature will be his legacy. So you ask, why name a post office in his honor? If you understand the history of the Postal Service, I think you'll agree that nothing is more fitting. You see, the Postal Service played an important role in our nation's founding. As documented by the Smithsonian and others, Benjamin Franklin himself oversaw Britain's colonial mail service across 13 colonies for more than 20 years. A job that helped him travel and understand how these colonies could one day together survive independently of the British Empire. Eventually, American patriots launched the Committees of Correspondence, followed by the Constitutional Post, which were a series of underground networks that enabled the founders to discuss plans for the Revolution without exposure to the British eyes. In fact, in 1775, prior to even signing the Declaration of Independence, the Continental Congress turned to the Constitutional Post into the Post Office of the United States, becoming one of the first of the very functions of the fledgling American government itself. The framers understood the importance of the Postal Service in keeping the electorate informed, and upon the American victory in the Revolutionary War, used it to expand the democratic thoughts and ideals throughout the new republic. Just as our founders used the Postal Service to bolster the ideas of our famous patriots, I believe it is only fitting that the post office within this city, the one in which Marshal called home, would bear the name of our community's greatest heroes, Tech Sergeant Marshal Roberts. I would like to thank the members of the Oklahoma delegation for their support in helping get this bill through Congress, especially Senator Langford, who carried the legislation on the Senate side for me. I want to recognize the United States Postal Service for their efforts in making today possible. I want to express gratitude to my staff for their hard work and dedication to get us to this moment. But this morning, I would like to close with this. It is my hope that by this simple act, the name Marshal Roberts lives on as a reminder to all who see it that not only is freedom not free, but that our freedom is fragile. It is only one generation away from being extinct if we don't fight for it every single day. It is worth fighting for. I hope that the name of Marshal Roberts on that wall serves as a constant urging within our own hearts, gently pushing us to live our lives in a manner that is worthy of the sacrifices that he made. But most importantly, having heard the story of Marshal's life from those who knew him best, I believe he would want his name to cry out a simple truth, that you are worth fighting for. You are valuable, created for a purpose by a God who loves and cares for you deeply. Because Marshal's sacrifice is a humbling reminder that someone believed your freedom was worth living and dying for. Thank you to the Marshal Roberts family for giving me the privilege of a lifetime to help honor his life. Thank you all.
Thank you, Congressman Hern. Next, I'd like to introduce Councilor Keith Austin. Tribal Councilor Keith Austin was first elected to the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council in 2015. Councilor Austin represents the Cherokee Nation's 14th district of the Tribal Council. And most importantly, he's a dear friend of the Roberts family. Please join me with a warm welcome for Councilor Keith Austin.
It is a true privilege to be here today, representing the Cherokee Nation and the legacy of Marshal Roberts. I grew up a short distance from here in the little town of Tulsa. And Owasso was so far away back in those days. And today we know it. The name Owasso comes from the word Owasso is from the Osage language, meaning turnaround place. And what an appropriate thing that we use the Native American language in this town to, this is a time when we take a thing of great pain and make something good out of it. And that's really what a turnaround is all about, is taking something of great pain and making something good out of it. Will Rogers said that there was no group of Americans who served the United States military greater than the first Americans, the Native Americans. Marshal was a proud Native American. Marshal was a proud American. Marshal was a proud family man, and Marshal was a proud father. Chief Hoskin asked me to read this proclamation today. Proclamation. Whereas Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts is a Cherokee Nation citizen, and whereas Roberts was a lifelong resident of the Cherokee Nation Reservation, and whereas his family are lifelong residents of District 14 inside the Cherokee Nation Reservation, and whereas Roberts was an Oklahoma Air Guardsman and received several commendations for his service, and whereas he should be recognized for his commitment and dedication to military service, and whereas Roberts made the ultimate sacrifice to save the life of a fellow guardsman during a deployment to Iraq, and whereas he led an honorable career in the U.S. Armed Forces where he exemplified the Cherokee way in holding one another sacred, and whereas Roberts' example and leadership, both in the military and at home, are to be held in high regard by all Cherokee Nation citizens. And now, therefore, I, Chuck Hoskin Jr., Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation, do hereby proclaim recognition to Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts, Cherokee Nation citizen, done at the Cherokee Nation this 13th day of April, in the year of our Lord, 2023, signed by Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. Thank you for the honor to be here today.
Thank you, Councilor Austin. Next up, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Stan Sallee. Stan Sallee was first elected as the Tulsa County Commissioner for District 1 in 2018 and was re-elected in 2022. Sallee represents the cities of Owasso, Collinsville, Skiatook, Hesperia, Tulsa, Broken Arrow, and the unincorporated areas of District 1 on the Board of Tulsa County Commissioners. Please welcome Commissioner Stan Sallee as he provides an official proclamation.
Thank you for the invitation to be here with the Roberts family. Congressman Hern, it's a privilege to represent Tulsa County. It's great to live in this part of the world in Owasso, where we celebrate and recognize all those that have given their lives. Unlike a lot of other areas in our country where they're tearing down monuments of our history, we're erecting nameplates, recognition at post offices, the Air National Guard, strips of highways, and forevermore educating our citizens that there are people that protect our freedoms and have given the ultimate sacrifice. And I want to thank Congressman Hern for carrying this legislation. He's a great defender of our country, our state, our community, and this would not have happened without his hard work and his staff, and we appreciate that. Just on a quick note, that it's important for us to do these things, to recognize those that have given the ultimate sacrifice. As I started my young married life in Owasso, bought my first house, and every night come home, sit in the cul-de-sac with other families, and we'd watch all the children play, and you never know who is going to be the next hero, who's going to fight for your country. And little did I know, as I watched for several years, as these kids playing, that one of those, and it was Army Specials, Andrew Looney, would be a hero from Owasso that gave his life for our country. And so, our children, they are the next defenders of our country, and our sacrifice recognize those that made before us. They're the ones who are going to make those sacrifices in the future, and we need to take care of those and make sure they're aware of why these signs and why these strips of highways are dedicated for these people. I'd like to read a quick proclamation from the Tulsa County government. Whereas Tulsa County thanks the men and women who served in the armed forces for their contribution and sacrifices, which have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. Whereas legislation by Congressman Hern was passed and signed by President Biden to rename the Owasso Post Office after Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts. And whereas Tulsa County is grateful for Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts, who served his nation selflessly, making the ultimate sacrifice while defending the liberties and freedoms we hold dear as Americans. And whereas Tulsa County seeks to honor the individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts enlisted in May 2014, and while deployed in Iraq, was the first Oklahoma Guardsman to be killed in action since September 11, 2001. And whereas it is important to honor his memory with this sober tribute and reflect on the debt owed by Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts and his family for the ultimate sacrifice he made in defense of our nation. Now therefore be it resolved, Tulsa County, with the utmost gratitude, and hereby acknowledges that the post office shall be renamed Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts Post Office. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Put them on Google Drive.
Thank you, Stan. Next, I'd like to introduce Mayor Kelly Lewis. Kelly Lewis was elected to the Owasso City Council in 2018 and was re-elected in 2021. On May 3rd, 2022, Lewis was appointed as mayor of the city of Owasso. She's joined today by other members of the Owasso City Council who will be introduced later in the program. Please welcome Owasso Mayor Kelly Lewis for a special presentation.
Good morning, everyone. It is such a privilege to be here today. It's so important to remember those who choose to serve because of a calling on their life to give. We must remember that when Technical Sergeant Roberts chose to fulfill that calling, he made the highest sacrifice. I'm so grateful to honor his memory, and I'm so grateful to the family as well. This proclamation from the city of Owasso reads, whereas our community has a continuing sense of gratitude to the dedicated men and women who serve this great nation with distinction, both in peacetime and in war, and who have given so much in the defense of the freedoms which we all continue to enjoy. And whereas the United States Air Force has definitions of courage and spirit to all airmen should aspire to achieve in their daily life. Courage is defined as the mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. Spirit is defined as an intense energy that empowers one to act when called to action. Technical Sergeant Marshal Dakota Roberts was proud to serve in the Oklahoma Air National Guard as a member of the 219th Engineering Installation Squadron, 138th Fighter Wing. And whereas Technical Sergeant Roberts died in combat on Wednesday, March 11th, 2020, while deployed in support of Operation Inherent Resolve in Iraq. And whereas Marshall's parents, Sallee and Randy Roberts, raised him in the community of Owasso, Oklahoma, where he graduated from Owasso High School in 2010. And designating this post office in Marshall's honor will serve as a reminder to the many generations who will walk into this building and see the dedication plaque, and to the many motorists who drive past and see his name on the building of his selfless commitment and ultimate sacrifice to ensure that rights and freedoms are secure. Whereas his history is worth knowing, and whereas the night of Marshall's death, hostile fired rockets were launched, and he took cover along with a fellow airman. During the commotion, they discussed running for a bunker for cover. Marshall encouraged his fellow airmen to go and get her protective gear. As she left to get her gear, a rocket struck the location of their cover. Marshal lost his life, but heroically put another's well-being before his own and saved the life of his fellow airman. And whereas Technical Sergeant Roberts placed others before himself, even until his last breath on this earth. Marshal is remembered for the love and sacrifice that he made on behalf of his country and fellow wingmen. Whereas no hero ever truly dies until the last time someone speaks their name. Now therefore, the mayor and the city council members of the city of Owasso, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim to honor Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts and pledge our commitment to never forget, so that his sacrifice will stand as a tribute to the spirit and determination of a community hero dedicated to the principles of freedom and democracy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor, City of Owasso. Next, it is my humble honor to introduce to you our next and very special guest, the Gold Star spouse of Tech Sergeant Marshal Roberts, his wife, Kristie. Kristie is herself an active member of the Oklahoma Air National Guard, where she currently serves as an officer, a second lieutenant of the 138th Medical Group. She's been an airman now for 18 years, and it's through the Oklahoma Air National Guard where she and Marshal first met. When Marshal and Kristie got married, they began making life plans together, and they set a mutual goal. And that goal was that Marshal wanted to help put Kristie through medical school. This was a lofty goal, but a goal that they shared together, and Marshal took this very serious and provided daily support and encouragement to his wife. After the attack in March of 2020, this goal seemed unreal because Kristie no longer had her life partner and that daily support and that daily encouragement she received from her husband. But she knew she needed to keep moving forward, and she knew she needed to finish what they started together. It was only a few months after the funeral in August of 2020 that Kristie walked the stage and completed the white coat ceremony, which inaugurated her journey as a medical student. And since then, she's persevered in this goal and completed her board exams and is well on her way to becoming a doctor of internal medicine. There are many titles by which Kristie could be honored today, but I'm certain it's not doctor. I'm certain it's not lieutenant. The title by which Kristie is most proud of is wife of Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts. Would you please join me in a warm welcome for Kristie Roberts.
Thank you, Chief Hildebrant. There were many times I called him Chief. I can't, I try to be professional in my demeanor, and I remember being on the plane, and he grabbed my hand and he said, "Kristie, stop calling me Chief, call me Derrick." So thank you, Derrick. I'm very humbled by your kind words, and I'm afraid if I go into more detail, I won't make it through this speech. Thank you, Congressman Kevin Hern and Robert Airy. I've been in contact with you for over a year and a half, and I'm just so grateful to you and to your staff for making all of this possible. And I hope I'm projecting or talking loud enough. Thank you to the 138 Fire Wing for being here today, to family and friends for taking this time from your morning, from your day, to be here on this special occasion, a day that we can open up our hearts to the Lord's benevolent joy and celebrate the wonderful life of Marshal Roberts. Marshall's humility and inclination to blush were a couple of many trademarks of his personality. So as his wife, you can understand how difficult it is for me to stand here today and speak on his behalf, and adequately express the gratitude I know he feels in his heart, and to say that even in heaven I know he is blushing. During morning prayer, I asked the Lord to give me courage to stand here and speak today. Additionally, I needed help putting my thoughts to paper, and I felt at peace at relinquishing this to the Lord. And the answer to my prayer actually came during evening. Peyton and I were walking around Clearmore Lake, and she asked me if I would tell her the story of the starfish. And I have that story here today that I'd love to share with you. And an elderly gentleman was one morning walking along the shore after a large storm, and he noticed that the beach was littered with starfish. Off in the distance, he noticed a little boy, and he noticed that the little boy would lean down and pick up something and then throw it. And the man called out to him and asked, "What are you doing?" And the little boy said, "I'm throwing starfish into the ocean. The tide has washed them up, and they can't return to sea by themselves. When the sun gets high, they will die unless I throw them back into the water." The old man replied that there must be tens of thousands of starfish on this beach. "I'm afraid you won't be able to make much of a difference." The boy bent down, he picked up yet another starfish and threw it as far as he could see into the ocean. Then he turned and smiled and said, "It made a difference to that one." I reference this parable because my testimony merely reflects how selfless, genuine gestures make a difference in a person's life. Romans 8:28, written by Paul the Apostle, states, "We know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose." The number of lives Marshal impacted is countless. During a tragic time, the community manifested love and connection to him by serving our family through physical service, providing meals, donation, prayers, and many other mercy ministries. I thought back to my encounter with Congressman Hern at the Tulsa airport, where we would begin a very long day of travel to Dover Air Force Base and prepare for the dignified arrival of Marshal Roberts on U.S. soil. My recollection of this moment is foggy, but I remember him entering the USO lounge with Chief Hildebrant speaking, and he took me, put his hands over mine, and he prayed with us. And then I fast forward to the fall of 2020, and I vividly remember the phone call that morning. The Congressman Hern regarding the plans to rename the post office. The post office would be renamed after an Owasso native and hero, my husband, Marshal Roberts. From our first encounter, Congressman Hern has remained personally invested in supporting our family. He's personally invested in Oklahoma's fallen service members and our veterans. The Gold Star families of Oklahoma are fortunate to have U.S. representatives like Hern, who has publicly stated that it is Oklahoma's duty to recognize the importance of military service. And the renaming of the Owasso Post Office is a small but meaningful gesture. reality of my dream. He never hesitated to say, "I love you," and sometimes asked, "Babe, do you promise you'll always be mine?" Even though I know he won't answer me, I'll always say, "I love you. I'll always be yours, babe." I've had to come to terms with the fact that time doesn't stop. Though to our family, it stopped the moment we saw the notification team on our doorstep. The most difficult thing I've ever had to endure is navigating this journey without him. I'm sorry. May we always remember and walk in the memory of the fallen service members who hold the burden of our freedom. Marshal, I promise to never let your memory fade. Your presence is always with us. You are incredibly missed. You are incredibly loved, and you will never be forgotten. Thank you.
We have one final presentation before we close out our ceremony today. I'd like to introduce Diane Ingland. Diane Ingland is the District Manager of the United States Postal Service, Arkansas and Oklahoma. She has over 30 years of experience with the Postal Service, beginning her career in 1991 as a Rural Carrier Associate, RCA, delivering the mail. Diane worked her way up within the organization, gaining postal operations, extensive experience, customer service, and mail processing knowledge along the way. A graduate of the USPS Executive Leadership Program, Advanced Leadership Program, and Managerial Leadership Program. Would you please join me in welcoming Diane?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. The Postal Service is honored to be a part of such a fitting ceremony for Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts. We'd like to thank Representative Hern and the Roberts family for pursuing this honor. And I'd just like to take a couple minutes and let you know what a distinguished honor it is to have the Postal Service named after you. There are 31,000 post offices across the country. Of the 31,000, 900 are named in honor of someone. In the state of Oklahoma, we have 600 post offices. 12 of them are named in honor of someone. One for an Army military service person, a National Guards person, 2 businessmen, 2 athletes, 4 politicians, 1 carrier killed in the line of duty, and a civil rights icon. And today, we honor Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts with this honor as well. As I prepared for today's ceremony, I learned so much about the impact that Technical Sergeant Roberts had on so many. The stories that were shared, is our privilege to celebrate the legacy of Technical Sergeant Roberts today as we dedicate the Owasso Post Office in his honor. After today, known as the Technical Sergeant Marshal Roberts Post Office.
Thank you, Diane. This time I'd like to ask everyone to remain seated so that the family can now be escorted to the private room. I'd like to start also by announcing a few special guests, recognizing them. I'd like to start by thanking Tulsa Tech also for hosting this event. I'd also like to thank the family members, the Gold Star family who was able to be here with us today. Especially I'd like to recognize Kristie, Peyton, Sallee, Randy, Courtney, and Carmen. Please give them a round. Thank you to all of the elected officials who were able to join us today. If you are an elected official, would you please stand and be recognized at this time? Thank you for being here. Adjutant General of Oklahoma, General Mancino, the 138th Fighter Wing, 219 PIS Squadron. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you for doing such a good job.
Finally, thank you to the United States Postal Service staff for all of their hard work. Final special announcement. You'll see the United States Postal Service has a table set up in the back with a temporary retail service station. And you'll be able to receive a special postmark commemorating the ceremony today. If you'd like to, they have put that together for you. So please spend some time back there for the ceremony. Thank you all for coming here today, making this special for our Gold Star family, the Roberts family, and for honoring Tech Sergeant Marshal Roberts' name that will never be forgotten because of this day. This concludes our ceremony and this dedication.